At Moretti's, the last table had cleared. Angela opened an email from the accountant. The subject line struck her motionless. It read, "Urgent. Ownership transfer filed. Your 60% stake was transferred to Stephanie with your notarized signature." Her notarized signature. She had never seen a notary.
I never signed a thing. The restaurant I built from one dining room, taken with a click.
The attachment showed a forged signature dated last month. No small talk from Richard. Her hand shook. The phone screen blurred. She looked up at the room she had known for 38 years.
Stephanie.
6 years. Stephanie had pushed her to retire. Now the pressure made a terrible kind of sense.
She forged my name. My own daughter.
She set the phone down. The restaurant wasn't hers anymore, unless a forgotten clause from her brother's hand could still protect what they built. At dawn, she sat in her kitchen, still in last night's blouse, clutching the landline. She dialed Richard's number, each rotation of the old phone ticking like a countdown.
Angela, I flagged the transfer because the signature didn't look right. I am glad you called.
I never signed anything, Richard. That's a forgery. My own daughter put that on paper.
Angela, the county already filed it. You are going to need an attorney. This is serious.
Stephanie, this is her way of forcing me out. She's been planning this for years.
The line went dead. Angela held the receiver until the drone gnawed at her ear. She stood, the image of Moretti's neon sign burning in her mind. There was only one call left. She dialed the number she hadn't called in months. Patrick, her brother's son. 3 rings, then a click. The voice that answered could change everything.
Patrick, it's your aunt. Something happened at the restaurant. I need your help.
Aunt Angela, you sound wrecked. What did Stephanie do?
She listed the email, the forged notary, the county filing. Her voice cracked only once.
A forged notary seal is a crime, but there's a legal sledgehammer I haven't told you about.
Patrick's eyes moved to his father's photograph. Anthony Russo, the silent partner who had never really left. He unlocked a drawer and lifted out the original 1987 partnership agreement, its ink faded but binding.
There's a clause here. Written consent of both founding partners for any change. Dad's veto passed to me as executor.
The clause had outlived Anthony. As executor, Patrick could still wield it.
Then the transfer was invalid the moment Stephanie filed it.
We'll file an emergency motion. Aunt Angela, the restaurant is still yours. Meet me tomorrow.
The next morning, Angela sat across from Patrick in his office, a copy of the 1987 agreement between them.
I pulled the original from Dad's safe this morning. It's never been challenged.
He slid the paper toward her, his finger tapping a paragraph near the bottom. Any change of ownership in the operating entity requires the written consent of both founding partners.
His voice from 1987. They had insisted on that clause together.
Her fingers brushed Anthony's signature. For a moment, the office smelled like the old kitchen.
Stephanie's transfer is void. We'll make it official, but you can walk in there today and reclaim your stool.
I need to see her first. Before that motion lands, I want her to hear it from me.
Be careful. She might not take it quietly.
Angela left the office with a certified copy of the clause in her purse and the name Stephanie burning on her tongue. She pushed through Moretti's door during prep. The familiar garlic and oregano did nothing to settle her stomach.
Mom, why are you here? You are supposed to be resting.
I got an email from Richard. A transfer filing. My signature on a document I never touched.
That was just paperwork to make retirement official. You always said you'd step back.
You forged my name, Stephanie. That's a felony.
You left me no choice. 6 years I ran this place. You treated me like a child.
Angela's voice dropped. The next word stilled the air.
Your Uncle Anthony made sure I always had a choice. There's a silent partner clause.
Stephanie's face went pale. Her mouth opened, but no words came.
This isn't over, Mother. You haven't heard the last of this.
At Patrick's office the next morning, the emergency motion waited on the desk, its language sharp and final.
This will void the transfer as of the filing. Once we submit it, there's no turning back.
Do it. I won't let her take what my brother helped build.
Patrick drove to the probate court. A clerk stamped the motion with one heavy strike. Angela didn't watch him leave. She walked into the kitchen, where steam and quiet loyalty still lived.
Sophia, I need you to know what's happening. Stephanie forged a transfer. There's going to be a fight.
This kitchen has always been yours. Whatever you decide, I'm standing here with you.
Sophia's hands never stopped working, but her eyes held steady.
At least the kitchen is still mine.
The emergency motion was filed. Now she could only wait for the court to breathe life into her brother's promise. 3 days of silence broke when Stephanie's name lit up her caller ID.
You filed a motion. I'll file a competency hearing. At your age, a judge will wonder why you're still holding on.
Competency won't erase the clause, Stephanie. Your uncle's signature is still on that paper.
Aunt Angela. She has no standing. Put her on speaker.
This isn't over. You'll regret this, Mother.
The line went dead with a crackle. Angela let the receiver drop into her lap, the echo of her daughter's threat still ringing. She called Dr. Thompson directly. An exam, the full battery. No delay. The certificate came back clean and laminated itself to the refrigerator with a magnet.
Let her try. I've got more fight than she knows.
She pressed the paper flat and felt the cold certainty of her brother's ink still holding a promise from 1987. Angela carried the medical certificate to Patrick's office, laying it beside the 1987 agreement like a second weapon.
This clean bill and Dad's clause together. Stephanie's competency argument is dead.
The two papers side by side. His ink from 1987. Her diagnosis from yesterday. Felt like a fortress. That night, she sat in her study. The photograph of Anthony watching her from the desk. She closed her eyes, and 1987 returned. The smell of fresh paint in the original dining room. Anthony had said, "Angela, we put this clause in so no one could tear what we built apart." She opened her eyes, her thumb pressing his signature on the paper that still bound them both.
I won't let you down, Tony.
By morning, she dressed in black and pinned her pearls on. The courtroom was waiting.
Whatever happened next, the clause was still there, and so was she.
The probate courtroom was quiet and wood-paneled. Patrick rose, the 1987 agreement in his hand.
Your Honor, the clause requires consent from both founding partners' estates. My father's veto is still active.
He laid the forged signature beside the clean medical certificate. The judge leaned forward. Motion granted. The transfer is void, effective immediately. The gavel struck once. The clerk stamped the order, ink soaking into the page. Angela pressed a hand to the bench. The restaurant was hers again, but her legs felt hollow.
Aunt Angela, the forgery is still a felony. We have to decide whether to press charges.
A criminal case against my own daughter. How do I hold that and still call myself a mother?
She walked home in gray light. The restaurant was safe, but the next fight was hers to name. Patrick's question hung unanswered. She hadn't said yes. She hadn't said no. Patrick came to her kitchen early. No warning. The coffee cup in front of her had gone cold hours ago.
Aunt Angela, the forged notary seal is a felony. If we don't act, it sets a precedent that anyone can take what isn't theirs.
But she's my daughter. How do I carry that and still look at her childhood photos?
Her hand moved to the framed photo of Anthony, the one she kept on the kitchen counter since the day the restaurant opened.
If I don't press charges, what did that clause ever mean? Anthony put it there so power couldn't be taken without consent.
She picked up the landline. By afternoon, she was seated across from an assistant district attorney, and Patrick was spreading the evidence across the desk. The complaint was 14 pages. She read the line charging forgery, then signed her name with a hand that didn't tremble. She returned to Moretti's after closing. The chairs were upside down, the candles dark. She touched each table as she walked to the back.
This was never about punishment. It was about the promise I made to Tony.
The case was filed before midnight. Stephanie Moretti would be served within the week, and nothing at Moretti's would ever be the same. On a Tuesday morning, a process server walked into Moretti's. Stephanie was behind the bar, counting register slips. 2 county officers stepped through the door behind him. Stephanie's face went slack.
You are arresting me for handling my own mother's paperwork?
She was led outside in handcuffs, the lunch crowd staring. Angela stood at the host stand and didn't flinch. By nightfall, a blog post carried a photo of the squad car. The headline, "Daughter charged with forging mother's signature at Landmark Eatery." The restaurant phone rang non-stop. Angela turned off the ringer and set out the dinner candles.
Listen up. That door opens at 5. We serve pasta. We serve wine. We don't serve gossip.
Table 12 requested the Barolo. Open it early so it breathes.
That first night under the news, the dining room filled anyway. Regulars came, quietly, to show whose side they were on. After closing, Angela sat alone in the dark church, lighting a candle for the daughter she still loved. A week passed. The dinner rush still came, but the silence between covers was heavier. After closing, the dining room was dark, except for one candle. Angela hadn't left.
I brought 2 glasses. You looked like you needed company more than a wine list.
The first sip broke the seal on something deeper.
She used to stand on a milk crate to count mushrooms. She'd tell me, "I am your sous chef mama."
Sophia reached across and covered Angela's hand. No words at first, just pressure.
You built this place. We'll keep it alive. Garlic bulbs and hot stoves, that's all we need.
I want you to be the general manager, Sophia. When this is over, say you'll do it.
Sophia nodded. Tears brimmed, but she didn't speak, just squeezed Angela's hand harder. The candle flickered, and for the first time that week, the restaurant exhaled. Patrick phoned from his office. Tie loose, voice steady, but not casual.
The DA proposed a plea: 6 months probation, restitution, and permanent removal from any operational role at Moretti's.
Permanent removal. She'd never work another shift.
She'll still be your daughter, but the restaurant will never belong to her again. It's the cleanest outcome.
It's what I wanted. So why does it feel like a blade in my own chest?
Her hand moved to the framed photograph of Anthony, the one who made her promise the restaurant would outlast them both.
Write it up. Tell them I consent. But I won't stand in front of her and say it's fine.
I'll call the DA. We'll have a hearing in 10 days.
She hung up and pressed the locket against her palm. The tiny photograph of Anthony cool against her skin. The plea agreement was filed before sundown. The courthouse hallway waited, but tonight she still had time to pray. 10 days later, the corridor smelled of floor wax. Stephanie sat rigid beside her attorney, the plea document damp under her fingers. She signed her name without flourish, as if the pen belonged to a stranger.
Guilty.
The judge read the terms: 6 months probation, restitution, and permanent removal from any operational role at Moretti's. Angela watched from the gallery, pearls tight at her throat. Not a blink. When the gavel struck, Stephanie turned and walked out, her attorney a pace behind. She didn't look back. Angela didn't move. The courtroom emptied around her. Only Patrick stayed.
It's over. The restaurant is yours.
She didn't go home. She went to the church, lit no candle, and sat with the silence. By evening, she walked through Moretti's door. Sophia had the pass in motion, and the reservation book was open to Friday. The restaurant was still hers. Angela handed Sophia the keys to the manager's office. The brass was warm from her grip.
The new menu prints next week. I put the osso buco back on. and the artichoke salad from your brother's time.
Sophia's hands moved on the pasta station with the same rhythm she'd had for 14 years. Friday night, the pass was a machine. Sophia called orders, and the line answered without a single misfire.
Welcome back, Mr. DeLuca. Table 8, your usual Barolo. You haven't aged a day, Sylvia. I still have the recipe for your mother's tiramisu.
She poured wine and stopped to talk at every table, not because she had to, but because the room was hers again. Angela cleared plates herself, feeling the weight of them, the clatter of a busy restaurant that had survived.
87 covers. No send-backs. We did it.
When the last candle was snuffed, Moretti's was more alive than it had been in 5 years. 6 months later, on a Friday night, the door swung open, and a silhouette stopped just inside the warm light. Stephanie stood there, coat collar up, eyes sweeping the room, as if looking for permission. Angela looked up from the reservation book. Her hand went still on the page.
All these months, and she came alone. Like a stranger at my door.
She picked up one menu, not two, and walked toward her daughter without a word. Angela led her to the small corner table that faced the kitchen door, where the family used to sit. Stephanie sat. Her fingers touched the edge of the plate, as if remembering a routine. Before she returned to her post, Angela let their eyes meet. A blink. Then, she turned away. Angela smiled at the next guest and opened the reservation book. The door of Moretti's stayed open, and the night rolled on. Sophia set the ossobuco before Stephanie without ceremony. The dish hadn't changed.
The kitchen hopes you enjoy.
Stephanie nodded without meeting Sophia's eyes. She cut into the veal. She ate, as though every ingredient carried a memory she hadn't expected. The fork slowed. She looked up only once, toward the host's stand. When the plate was nearly empty, she laid bills on the table, more than the check, and tucked them under the saucer. She stood, coat still on, and walked the long corridor of tables toward the door. Angela was seating a couple. Their eyes met. A single pulse.
She looked older, thinner, like she'd been carrying something heavy.
Then the door swung, and Stephanie was gone. The reservation book waited, and Angela turned back to the room. After the last table had emptied, Angela didn't go home. She poured a single glass of wine and sat at the host's stand. Her thumb traced the teeth of the original keys, the ones her brother had cut for this building. She lifted her eyes to Anthony's photograph, mounted above the archway. She crossed the room and pressed her palm flat against the brass plaque. Moretti's, since 1986. In the empty room, the single candle on table 9 still burned, the same one she lit every Friday.
We did it, Tony.
She turned off the lights, leaving the candle to gutter. The keys jangled in her hand, walking home. The Moretti sign glowed behind her, a warm neon in the Chicago night. She paused at the front window and placed a hand on the glass. The street outside was empty. The silent partner clause was hers. And it was enough. Months folded into years. Moretti's filled its tables with regulars who returned, and new faces drawn by the food. Sophia ran the kitchen with a clipboard and a calm voice that never needed to rise.
Mr. Kowalski, your wife ordered the branzino last time. Try the oretta tonight.
If you finish your plate, my grandmother haunts me. She says no one leaves my kitchen hungry.
Stephanie came once a month, always alone, always to the corner table. Angela seated her. They still hadn't spoken. The food arrived. She ate without looking around. The plate was always clean when she left. When the door settled, the restaurant was as it always had been. Angela straightened the menus. Moretti's was never just a restaurant. It was a promise kept. Some legacies are held in deeds, others in kitchens that never close. The sign still glowed at dusk, and inside, Angela still stood at her post. It was the first Friday of November. The air crisp. The reservation book only half filled. Angela stood at the host's stand, adjusting the flowers, Out of the corner of her eye, she caught movement on the sidewalk. Stephanie stood under the street lamp, coat pulled tight, her gaze fixed on the restaurant door.
She's never stopped outside before. Something's different tonight.
Stephanie's hand reached toward the handle, then fell. She turned her collar up and walked back up the street. Angela's fingers tightened on the reservation book. When she looked up again, the sidewalk was empty.
I could call her name, but some distances have to be crossed from the other side.
Instead, she smiled at the next couple and led them to table 6. The night rolled forward. After closing, Sophia set a glass of red next to Angela's elbow and said nothing. Sometimes, love was letting them go. And some Friday nights, the restaurant still felt full. Angela locked the door and slipped the keys into her coat pocket. The brass was cold against her knuckles. The street lamp outside Moretti's spilled its cone of light onto the empty sidewalk. She walked north, breath fogging. She passed the restaurant's front window, now dark, and caught her own pale reflection in the glass. Her hand found the locket, thumb brushing the tiny photograph of Anthony inside. No words came. The street listened only to the click of her heels. At her brownstone, she stopped under the stoop light and turned to look for the neon glow beyond the corner. The clause was never just paper. It was a promise. The keys jangled once as she unlocked her door. Inside, the silence was familiar and full. She hung her coat. The locket rested against her blouse. The restaurant would open again Friday, and she would be there. At dawn, the Moretti sign still glowed against the gray sky, a warm ember in the Chicago morning. Angela walked the familiar sidewalk, coffee in hand, the same route she'd taken for nearly 4 decades. She paused at the door and touched the brass plaque. Since 1986, the metal was cold but familiar. Inside, the chairs were still upside down, a single candle, waiting to be lit for the evening. She unlocked the door, the keys jingling the same melody they always had. She stood at the front window, looking out at the street she'd fought for. Outside, the first light caught the neon, and the restaurant woke. She touched the plaque once more, before heading to the kitchen to start the day. Some battles aren't about winning. They're about protecting what matters. And in that quiet morning, Angela Moretti still stood.